If you know my channel, you know that I lobby a lot of criticism at corporate media, especially MSNBC, the network that is supposed to be the liberal network or the progressive network and is nowhere near that. But I was surprised when I saw this segment from Chris Hayes on Israel-Palestine.
Yesterday, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a phone call. And according to the White House readout that they put out afterwards, apparently the two did not talk about what was probably the most important thing for them to talk about. And that's the fact that just a few days ago, Israeli troops shot more than 750 Palestinians, killing at least 15. Yes, that is the correct number. More than 750 Palestinians shot, at least 15 dead. Now, this happened at a large protest along the Gaza border on Friday, where as many as 30,000 people gathered to begin what was planned as a 6-week sit-in protesting Israel's blockade of Gaza and supporting Palestinians' so-called right of return to Israel, a right that, I should note, the Israeli government says doesn't exist, and if enforced would spell the end of the Jewish state. Now, defenders of the Israeli military's actions will point out the protest was endorsed by Hamas, which rules Gaza in a thuggish and anti-democratic manner, and which uses violence and terror in its campaign against Israel. They will also note that at this particular protest, there were some protesters who threw rocks, Molotov cocktails, and rolled burning tires at the border fence. All of which is true, but in no way justifies what Israeli soldiers appear to have done, which is perch on a hill and pick off protesters with sniper fire. Much of it recorded for all to see. Like, for instance, this video, which shows live shots being fired at a teenager as he runs through an empty area to retrieve a tire. Or the shooting of this young man as he prayed near the border fence. As far as we can tell from the video evidence, IDF troops in sniper positions rained down bullets on unarmed people again and again and again. And not only did the President of the United States react by saying nothing, not only have the vast majority of members of Congress, Democrat and Republican, been entirely silent about this frankly unconscionable use of force, the U.S. blocked a UN Security Council statement calling for an investigation of what happened. Now, from day one, the Trump administration has sent the message to the U.S.'s Middle East allies, particularly Israel and the Saudis, that they can do whatever they want. There will be no raps on the knuckles, as there might have been in days of yore, no more tisk-tisking about restraint. And our allies are taking that directive and running with it. And that video of teenagers being shot in an open field, that's what it looks like when they do.
Now, that was actually pretty good. So, if you don't watch corporate media, you might not realize that whenever Israel-Palestine is covered, it is always pro-right-wing Israeli government. It is rarely, if ever, empathizing with Palestinians. But in this case, Chris Hayes is actually showing video of peaceful Palestinians being shot at during a protest. Now, one thing that Hayes mentioned here is that almost no senators came out and condemned this, except for, of course, Bernie Sanders, who tweeted out this: "The killing of Palestinian demonstrators by Israeli forces in Gaza is tragic. It is the right of all people to protest for a better future without a violent response." So, as I said, Bernie Sanders was the only senator to directly respond to this, and Splinter did a fantastic article where they actually called up all the other senators to see what their response was. And the answers are both hilarious and sad. So I'm going to read through a few of them to give you an idea of how these politicians were avoiding this question. So this from Lisa Murkowski, a Republican in Alaska. Quote, "The senator is traveling for work in rural Alaska with little to no cell service." And that was from her press secretary, Hannah Ray, and said, "So unfortunately, I won't be able to provide you with anything." Michael Bennett, Democrat, Colorado. Press Secretary Lori Cipriano asked if any other senators had given a comment and asked, quote, "I don't know that we will be able to get a comment by your deadline. Do you want to extend your deadline?" And they say that they offered to extend it and have not heard back. Let me just give you one more here. So Tammy Duckworth, Democrat, Illinois, quote, "I'll check in with the senator to see if she wants to comment." Again, no comment. So they're all just avoiding the question. Now, the UN actually had a response to this, and here's what they said. Over the weekend, the United Nations Security Council attempted to condemn Israel's actions and begin an inquiry into the violence, but the US blocked the statement. So while on the surface this may appear like a Trump-era thing, blocking a UN Security Council statement condemning Israel's actions here, it's actually a similar approach that Obama took during his presidency, and it wasn't until Obama was leaving office that he finally allowed the UN Security Council to adopt a resolution that condemned Israeli settlements on Palestinian territory. Now, at the time, that appeared to be a big move, but in context, while it was still a good move by Obama here, it wasn't really anything crazy when compared to George W. Bush or H.W. Bush. So this from Zed Jalani in The Intercept in 2016. Throughout his entire term, this is the only resolution critical of Israel that the Obama administration allowed to pass at the Security Council. The last Republican president, George W. Bush, allowed 6 similar resolutions to pass. This included, for example, a 2004 resolution calling for Israel to stop demolishing the homes of Palestinian civilians. George H.W. Bush allowed through 9 resolutions critical of Israel. Unlike with Obama, the elder Bush not only allowed some of these resolutions to pass, but he also supported them. During the Reagan administration, 21 Security Council resolutions critical of the Israeli government actions passed. This includes Resolution 573, which condemned an Israeli attack in Tunisia. So looking back on these conservative presidents and how they responded to the Israeli government kind of blows my mind. And now we're at the point where we were happy that Obama finally allowed a UN resolution through at the end of his presidency. And now with Trump, it's, clearly in a much worse situation. But to get back to the original point of this video, I'm just glad that there are some voices out there in corporate media like Chris Hayes that are willing to push back against the Israel-Palestine narrative. So we need to encourage that. So I will be critical of MSNBC and CNN, Fox News. I'll be critical of media when I need to be. But in situations like this, you have to give credit where it's due. Hey, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button below and consider throwing me a few bucks on Patreon at patreon.com/therationalnational or therationalnational.com/join.